Hey guys, today we have an iPad 8th generation. This is the latest one. Just came out. I don't know if you could see that there. 8 24/28. Okay, so this is the latest one. Everything's working. We tested it. We're going to start getting to work on it. First thing you want to do, obviously, put your goggles on, which I do. Safety goggles. And then let's start to get into the screen. I kind of preheated it a little bit. All right. Want to I like to use a little bit of alcohol right in that part. Don't put too much because you don't want to get anything in the LCD, get discolored LCD. So I just like to get a little bit in there just to start to move, loosen up the glue. Hopefully this one's not too bad. So we're going to start lifting this just a little bit with alcohol to loosen that glue up. Okay. You don't have to use too much heat. We used to use a lot of heat. And I discovered this alcohol. The 99% one is actually the best. It really dissolves the glue in contact. But you just got to be careful because this has an LCD and you don't want to get glue inside the LCD. Just a little bit. Let it seep in there. And it just depends on how these break. Sometimes they kind of lift up a little easy. But you just want to very gently start to lift that. I like leaving it on while I'm doing this just so I know I'm not breaking anything. Just breaking the LCD. So just little by little. Start to lift up, but definitely wear some eye protection goggles or something. Sunglasses. I'm wearing sunglasses. But because these little things, sometimes you lift it up and the glass breaks and you can get some glass in your eye. That's not a good feeling. Actually damage your retina or whatever, or scratch your eyeball. That's not good. Always be careful because this stuff, the way you're lifting, thing pops up, boom, right in your eyeball. That actually happened to me one time. But luckily for me, or thank God, it must have just bounced right out of my eye because I didn't really feel it. Felt it burning a little bit, but I washed my eyeball out. Must have just rinsed out. But you gotta be careful. Anyways, and around here, be careful too. Again, I don't like using a lot of heat as well because you can burn out the fingerprint ID chip or loosen the solder at least, then it won't work. So you want to be very careful. So I like using a little bit of alcohol, very little heat. I'm just trying to get underneath that. And a little bit of alcohol as you're lifting. And you'll see it come up pretty easy. That fingerprint cable is running right about here. So don't dig too deep, but you can go in a little bit. So apparently the same 7 Plus digitizer should, the 7 iPad 7th generation digitizer should work with the 8th. So that's what we're going to attempt today. Now you can kind of start lifting it up. I know it's a little annoying watching me take this all off, but it's better to kind of see where and how the best method is. Take this off, but I won't go through the cleaning part. Okay. Start lifting. Need to put a little more alcohol. You can always fast forward this stuff, but this isn't a good idea. Sometimes a little bit of heat is good. Kind of lift it. You'll see it kind of lift up by itself. Use some gravity. Oh, see that? Pop. But didn't get in my eye. You gotta be careful. That's good. So you gotta be careful. Yeah, that loosened up. Ah, lost a piece of my glove. That's dandy. A little bit of heat over here. I want to heat this up a little bit here too. But it's good to loosen this up as well here. Just a little bit of alcohol here. And watch out over here in case you were doing just an LCD repair and you were just taking the glass off. There's like some flex cables like right around here. Don't dig too deep, but since we're tearing this whole thing apart anyways, doesn't matter. But let's make sure everything's still working. Cool. And just be careful around here with this home button. And I haven't seen any videos on the 8 yet. So hopefully this is one of the first videos. But it's pretty similar to the 7, so I'm not going to toot my own horn. Glass. Piece of glass. So again, you know, all this glass breaks off differently, so you just got to be careful. Just try to just, oh, look at that, snagging my finger. Thank goodness I was wearing a glove. Oh, these are aren't the best gloves for repairing this. So yeah, you see you gotta be careful with these flex cables here. And especially over here too. Put a little more alcohol in there. Over here. See what's going on. You just want to be very careful because the LCD, I don't know if you can see that, it's still connected. There's a little bit of heat. Digitizer's, yeah, still kind of glued. Use a little bit of heat to lift that up. You can see that lift up. Okay, yeah, because if you yank that up, that LCD is still kind of glued there. Okay, so let's see. Everything still should be working. All right, cool. Awesome. Okay, well, we're almost there. All right, so now the next steps are to shut this off a second. Is to take the screws out, which are in the top corners over here. Find my screwdriver as usual. Somewhere. All right, let's use this one. Okay. So I'm catching this in the video. Okay, so you're gonna see there's like a little tape covering the screws. And probably on the iPad 7 there's some glue, some silicone glue that's holding that corner down, so you got to be very careful with that as well. So let's lift this. Let's get this out of the way. Hopefully you guys are catching this in the video. Okay, try to keep these in order because sometimes these are different sizes. Same thing with this side. That up best you can. Okay. Let's screw this side. Okay. Same thing here. Probably not getting that in the video. There. And then the last one here. Okay, hopefully getting that on the video. Okay, there we go. So let's put these here. Don't lose them. Okay, so now over here, this top corner, you gotta be careful. So we're gonna get something flat. You want to wedge this out a little bit because there's some, I don't know if you can see that, but there's some glue. Because it was small. There's a little bit of glue, silicone, so you kind of want to like rock it. Just rock it out. I'm trying this side. Probably break up the glue. You know, I never used alcohol. Could probably put a little alcohol. See if that works. Put it on here. That's working. There you go. New trick. Put a little alcohol in there. And that'll dissolve those corners. Do the same thing. There you go. get rid of this as well because it's holding the LCD down. Watch out for those guys. Okay, there we go. Now this should lift up easier. Okay, see that? Bam. So be careful of those corners. I don't show you that in the videos. Okay, so now let's shut this down because now we're okay. Everything's good. Now we can shut this down. Hopefully the screen's not too damaged. It'll let me power it off. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so that's shutting off. Very important. Disconnect. We're probably going to leave this here. I'll leave that there. Okay. Very important to disconnect the battery and to also like unscrew the battery. I don't know if you can see that. I'm unscrewing the battery right here. And we're going to put a piece of plastic so that the connection is broken. Because you could blow out the backlight on the motherboard if you leave the battery still connected. Okay, so don't lose that either. You're going to need that screw. So what I like to do is usually take like a very fine piece of plastic. See this? I don't know if you can see that. Super thin. Usually like an LCD package, just cut it out. And then what I like to do is I like to slip this underneath. I used to use one of those like guitar toothpicks, but they're too thick and sometimes you're bending up the motherboard. I don't want to bend any pins. So you just kind of slide that in there. Now the biggest test, make sure hit the power and make sure you're not getting any power. See that? I'm pressing the power and nothing's happening. Okay? Very important. Okay. 1 second, guys. Okay, so we're back. Again, put that underneath there. There's no power. Perfect. Okay, now we can start taking these bolts off. So if you can see that there, we're gonna take this one off. I'm gonna try to keep these in order. Sorry about that. I guess I'll work on this. Okay. Keep these in order. Put these over here. Alright, you can see that. Take this off. And take this one off. Okay. There we go. Mess those up. Take this plate off here. Okay, so now we're safe. Let's disconnect the LCD. Okay, put that to the side. And now let's disconnect our home button, which is this tape right here. Just gently lift this up because there's one of those little, whatever they call that thing, jawbone or something. You gotta be careful with that. Okay. There's this little spongy thing. This kind of lifts up. Careful with that. Put that back later. And then I would use again a little bit of alcohol just to get under this flex cable. There you go. Okay. Now we can disconnect this. Just pull that out gently. And let's disconnect this. Be very careful. You know, you don't want to dig down anywhere because there's little chips that can get messed up. Okay. There we have it. Nice. Okay. There we go. Now, I'm going to clean all this. Normally, you know, I go ahead and clean this out, but I'm really curious to see if this LCD is going to work. And for the sake of time, we're gonna connect it. Give us a sec. Okay, so we're back. So we see that the LCD connection is pretty much the same. So we're gonna connect this. Let's see if it works. Let's turn this up a little bit. So again, there's no power. These things are always a little tricky. Just be careful. There's a little bit of space. There we go. Okay. Let's see what happens. Get your power source back on. Oh, hello. I'm gonna just do that, did I? Let's get this back on here again. Okay, shouldn't be any power. Let's put our LCD back on. That would help, right? I was a little nervous. Okay. Let's get our power back on. See what happens. Ah, great. You know what? I didn't disconnect all that stuff. We're gonna have a little issue here, but anyways, let's see if we can just. Oh, okay. I think we'll be all right. No power. We got no power. Alright, I have an issue. Let's see what's going on. Always try to disconnect that power supply again. It seems to be connected. Sometimes you have to screw this bolt in, otherwise it won't come on. It won't make contact. Let's see if it's going to come on. There you go. There you go. So it wasn't, probably was like lifted a little bit. So we're going to see if this is going to touch. And if it touches, then we know. Oh, look at that. Perfect. So they weren't kidding, huh? So the iPad 8th gen will work with the 7th generation digitizer. It's awesome. And we've only seen that a few times with different Apple products, like the old 5S phone. The LCD worked with the newer 5SE, the one that came out like some years ago, not the 2020 SE. We figured that out. And what else? Is there anything? Oh, and the iPad Air 1 worked with the 5th generation LCD, and now we're seeing that the iPad 8th generation LCD works with the 7th generation works with the sorry. Let me get the I want to test this whole thing out 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I just want to check that all of this is working before we go ahead and start doing stuff and it doesn't work. Okay, cool. Everything looks like it's working. It's 3D touch is working. It's cool. Yep, everything's working. Alright guys, let's put this together. Let's finish it up. Let me kind of disassemble and we'll back to where we were before. Okay, so we're gonna clean all this glue off. So I'm not gonna bore you with that, but just try to get everything off on every corner. Use you know, something sharp, maybe a little alcohol, a little heat, and just take your time and get all that stuff off. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, so we're back. I cleaned that out already. I'll show you in a second. But the next thing you want to be very careful with is taking off this home button. This is why I really like using alcohol instead of heat. Use a little bit of alcohol. Just get underneath here and just start to go underneath here. You'll see. You'll see how it'll start to easily dissolve the glue. Okay. This piece might break off. It's fine. This material to work with, but let's see if we can. Oh, back down. Very careful. So we can just take this off. That's gonna work. I'm not sure. Okay, there we go. Let's get rid of this. And now we can work with just this piece. Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's use a little bit more alcohol. See if you can get some underneath here. Sometimes you gotta use a razor blade, but be very careful. You don't cut yourself or a flex cable. This is just kind of like metal right here, but you want to still be careful. Let's try a little more alcohol. Just be careful. Okay. Wipe our camera off. I want to be very careful. There's actually like a little piece of plastic that connects to the glass. Well, it's like adhered. You want to kind of try to pry that off. Keep it on the home button. That's kind of useful. There you go. It's kind of like a washer, but it's got like adhesive on it. Okay, there you go. So you want to clean all that stuff off, and then we'll connect it to the other flex. Okay, so here's your new board. Take all this tape off, obviously. Get all that off. I won't bore you with that. Here's another thing they don't really show you. You're gonna take this off and you're gonna glue it down here, but see how this plastic is? I don't know if you see that. This has to be lifted up because in the end you're gonna peel this off, and this is there. Sometimes they're cut out here, but in the event that they're not, you gotta take this up. Just be very careful. You don't cut the flex cable. Okay, take that one off. Don't take the one off on the back just yet, because you can get stuck. Just grab this off here. Okay, so now, again, you don't want to peel this all off, because then you get lint, you get it clean, it's a big mess. So just take your time doing this. Just peel back as far as you can. Okay. And if you can kind of don't go too far, because you don't want the black showing on the other side. You can kind of just push that down right there. Right up to the edge. There you go. Perfect. Okay. And just put that back. Let's make sure it's kind of You want to make sure there's a bit of a gap there. Okay, now we can take this off. It takes a little practice. But instead of peeling it all off, now you're going to get your fingerprints everywhere and make a big mess. Okay. Take this off. Okay. And there you go. Okay. So now the next step is, once we get our home button, everything's all cleaned off there, we're gonna set this up. Now we know all this stuff works, should be working. Now we're gonna, same concept, put some glue here. This is a B7000 glue. It's got a lot of good multi-purposes. Okay. I'm gonna put this on here. Okay. The adhesive is still on from the original, but I like to just put like a little bit, not too much, just like a little dab on the corners here, just so that it sticks a little bit better, because sometimes it gets super loose and then it falls, it collapses inside later, and the customer's unhappy, and guess what, you gotta take the whole thing apart. So just put like a little bit on the sides. Okay, let's go ahead and put this down again. We're gonna have to lift up that tape. Let's just set this in first. You get your fingerprints on the other side, it's no big deal. But let's kind of simultaneously lift this. I could probably put the button in first. Let's get that button in there. Somehow, somewhere. Make sure it's sitting in there, nice. All the way pushed up. Okay. All the way in there. Okay, that looks pretty solid. Okay, now let's move your tape here. Move your tape back. Oh, the protector, I mean. Okay. Let's set this where it's supposed to be, like that. There we go. Okay. It's looking pretty decent. And now you got to make sure there's a tiny little button in there. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of hard to see, but it's like a little tiny clicker. And you got to make sure that it clicks right now. There you go. It's clicking. And I would leave this like this for a while. Because you want to make sure that that doesn't move and it's clicking. Okay, perfect. Guys, so we're back. Got the button on there. It's secure. It clicks fine. So now, again, we're going to connect this. So make sure your power battery's disconnected. Click in your little home button thing. Get that in there. Clamp that down. Put this little guy back there where that was before. I think it was this way. Something like that. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So it doesn't move. Get your little tape. Get your little tape going here. Put that back on there. Okay. And now, let's get this back on here. Okay. Get these in order. Okay. Just be careful lining these up. Oh. You don't want to bend those cables or the pins on the flex cable. You kind of want to line it up. And you'll just feel it where it's going to pop in. Just be careful. Sometimes you gotta eyeball it a little bit. Let's take a look at this cable. Where's this supposed to go? It's right along the edge in the middle. So probably like right there. push these in too hard. Needles of pain. Give us a second. Okay, so there you go. Now it's in. Put in our LCD. Just got to fool around with it. Just kind of take a look at that. It's supposed to line up, and my LCD was kind of stuck on the corner here, and that was the issue. Okay, so let's go ahead and put our LCD in. Again, the power's disconnected, and we're gonna snap that into place. Okay. Now, I like to test, make sure everything's working first before we seal it, because then we're gonna have a big mess with the glue. So just take a quick second, power it back on again. Let me make sure it's gonna work. Okay, give it a second. Okay, we're back. All right, so yeah, it did power on. Let's take a look, make sure everything's working. Make sure everything's touching. It should. Make sure all the keys are working. If it's not clicked in properly, it won't touch. Or sometimes on the side way keyboard it won't work. So it just seems like everything's connected properly. Okay. That's what happened to me one time. I didn't check on the sides, and the customer called me back and I had to reopen the whole thing, click it back down again. It happens. Okay. It's looking good. I would check all the keys. Okay, perfect. Alrighty. It's looking good. Okay, looks good. Check the 3D touch. Oh, look at that. I guess it doesn't have 3D touch. Calendar doesn't have 3D touch? Is that right? No? That's weird. Oh, there it goes. Okay, you know what? It's not lined up all the way. I wasn't touching the correct spot. Okay. There you go. That's got 3D touch. Okay, so there you go. Yep, so correct this. Shut that off. Okay. Now we're gonna assemble everything properly. Lift that up. Again. I'm gonna put this up. Disconnect the battery. Again, everything's in. Just as precaution, when I put this plate back in, I don't know, got spooked one time. I just want to make sure the battery's disconnected whenever I'm using the screwdriver or putting bolts into the motherboard. You never know. But just to be safe, I'll make sure when I'm screwing stuff in, the battery's disconnected. Okay. I don't know if you can see that, but basically just going in reverse what I did before. Putting that in there. Okay. There we go. Everything's nice and secure. There you go. Top that out. Let's put this back in. Okay. Okay. There we go. Pop this back in here. Now let's put these screws in. Now this, obviously you don't worry about. It's going to cause some shock because it's basically plastic and the board's on the corner. You're just touching the frame. I don't know if you can see this. I need to get, sorry about that. Okay. Those are in. Get this in the corner here. this one seems like it's not all the way in. Let's go like this. Okay. There we go. Okay. Awesome. All right, see, look at this. Little bits of glass. You're going to have to be careful. Get all those little bits of glass out now. Later, too late. 1 second, guys. Okay, so just some finishing touches. You want to clean the LCD. I like using 99% alcohol. Make sure there's no like dust in here. Okay. Do all these little things you can do. 1 second, guys. Okay, guys, we're back. Make sure to clean everything nice. Okay. Sure, everything's nice. Okay. All right, now you're gonna take your B7000. This already has adhesive tape, but this stuff never sticks that good, so it doesn't stick well, I should say. So we're gonna do, get your glue ready, and you're gonna go around. Start at the top here. Yeah, you don't have to put so much, just enough. It's gonna hold. Let's go all the way around. Just ain't going no more. Okay, there you go. Let's clean this again. Power it up, just in case that was an issue. Should have did that before. There we go. We know there's going to be power. Perfect. I like using these little micro fiber cloths. Okay, let's shut the power off again. Okay. Now you're ready to seal it. Nice stomach growling. And then launch it. Okay, looks pretty good. Nice. Okay, let's take this up. Just be careful. Okay, on the glue. There we go. Boom. Now we can close this down. Just be careful with this, that you kind of get it dead center, because these things love to not sit right in the middle. So I like to, especially on the edge, if you put it down too close or too far, so you kind of have to just eyeball it. Just get it dead center. There you go. And just kind of get it like that, because then it's not too much. One time I glued one down and it was like all the way to the left, and there was a big gap on the right. That didn't look nice. Okay. There you have it, guys. The home button, you know, because it was glued properly, you know, allowed it enough time to settle. Should be fine. All right, guys, so there you go. iPad 8th generation. Hopefully the first one on YouTube. Click a like, subscribe, and remember you can use the iPad 7th generation digitizer to do this job. Alright guys, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And like always, fixapros.com. Have a great day.